Hi, my name is Tomasz and you're watching Casual DIY channel. In today's video we're going to be making some really cool push blocks to replace these really cheap and not so very good ones. Check out the video. Okay, so as a base I'm going to be using 12mm plywood. I've got a offcut just like so that will be perfect for the base. And then for the handle itself I want something nice and thick, so you know you've got the stable grip on it, and I've got this glue up of two plywood sheets. Both of them are 18mm, so that will be nice and thick grip on the push stick itself. So let's cut all of this to the right sizes. To make the cuts I'm just going to be using my miter saw. The size of the base will be 9 centimeters wide and 19 centimeters long. However, if you've got different needs in your particular situations, you can just make whatever sizes you want and whatever suits your needs better. Now it's time for the handle, and in my case it's going to be about 6.5 centimeters tall by probably about 15 to 16 centimeters long. Okay then, so in the plywood I've drawn a more or less a shape of a handle I want, and I'm just going to use my bandsaw to cut it out. But obviously if you don't have a bandsaw you can just use a jigsaw or even a coping saw. Anything like that will work absolutely fine. And after that, what I cut out here I'm going to trace on the second piece of plywood for the second push block. Simple as that. And when both of the pieces are cut out, we're going to use double-sided tape just to put them together, and we'll refine the shape on my sander. Now, as you can see, I'm just using the Triton sander, belt sander, to refine the shape of the handles. However, you know, you can just do it with a normal sander or a rasp, or even just, you know, hand sandpaper, and that's it. And to be fair, if you manage to do a good job on a bandsaw or, you know, with another tool cutting them out, then you don't really need to spend that much time on refining the shape. Next step is totally optional. I'm just going to be using my router table to give a nice round over to the handle and to one side of the base of the push blocks. But again, you know, it's up to you. You can just use sandpaper and just round over the edges that way. I'm just going to touch up the handles with some sandpaper on the edges to make them really nice and smooth. Now it's time to pre-drill some holes in the bases. These will accommodate the dowels that will act as stoppers, but you will see how that works a bit later on. The thickness of my dowel is about 9mm, so I'm actually pre-drilling holes that will be 1 centimeter in diameter. That will allow free movement of the dowel in that slot. Now I'm just going to cut the dowels to the right sizes, and in my case it's 2 centimeters. Okay, in this step I'm going to glue some washers to the dowels that we just cut to the right sizes. Now you don't actually have to use washers. You can use pieces of wood, pieces of timber, of anything like that that is actually larger than the hole that we pre-drilled. We are just installing a stop to those dowels so they don't fall through the hole. And in my case, as I said, I'm going to be using some washers, and I'm going to glue them with 5-minute epoxy. Now the next thing we need to sort out is what to put on the bases of these push blocks. Now these are black, but they're just painted, so disregard that. Now in my case, in my workshop, I've got some nice rubber. that is actually fantastic for this application. If you don't have something like this, use sandpaper. Grit 60 or 80 will be absolutely fine to give that steadiness to your push block and actually be able to grip the material and push it through whichever machine you're going to be using it for. In my case, obviously, will be a jointer. So yeah, I'm going to be using a rubber. In your case, you can just use sandpaper. That will work absolutely fine as well. Now, to attach the rubber mat to my base, I'm just going to be using 5-minute epoxy again. However, I think, you know, probably super glue would be absolutely fine for this application. You know, so whatever you've got in your workshop that can stick those two items together will be absolutely fine. Try to wear some gloves when you actually do that if you're using 5-minute epoxy. Unfortunately, I have run out of my gloves, so I just need to be very careful. Okay, and put something heavy on it and let it cure. Okay, so let's talk about the next step here. These goes just in the hole, just like that. Okay, as you can see, hopefully, they are sticking through the bottom, so that will grab the material. You're going to be pushing through your jointer or any other tool. Okay, and if you place it on a flat surface, like so, they will just go up. Super simple. Okay, what we need to do now is to make sure they actually don't fall out. Okay, so what I did, I've got a few pieces of wood, so we're gonna basically do a stop on the top, just like so, preventing them from falling out. Okay, so it will look something like this. If you flip it over, okay, they're not gonna fall out, they will stay in place. Just gonna use glue to connect them. That will be plenty strong. Okay, and just leave that to cure. Now it's time to attach the handles as well. I'm only going to be using wood glue for that. You know, I don't think anything else is required for this. You know, you would be tempted to actually use some screws from underneath or from the top. But, you know, think about that. This base will be very close to some sort of blade. So you definitely don't want any metal fasteners to get in the way of your blade. So, you know, that could be quite messy. So in this project, the only metal thing is the washer itself. But as I said, but you can replace that with a, you know, wooden larger dowel or, you know, just a square piece that will go on top of this. So you will limit any potential damage you can cause to your blade. But as I said, in this case, just going to be using some wood glue, and that will be plenty strong for this project. And there you go, leave that to cure. Okay, and now let's try to install this bit. Before you do that, please remember to put the pins first, otherwise you will not be able to put them in later on. So very easy. Again, we're just gonna glue that on. Make sure everything's nice and straight as you want it. Okay, the glue has set, everything's nice and sturdy. As you can see, it's super simple, really that simple way of adding a really cool feature to a push block, especially when you're using a jointer. But hey, the last thing I want to do with these is just to add bits of protection. So I'm just gonna use some wax, give it a one nice protective coat. It's only a shop project, so you don't need to apply really some fancy finishes or anything like that. So yeah, I'm gonna apply the wax to these and we'll go and test them out. Tell you what, it seems that they are working absolutely great, and at the fraction of the price that you would have to pay for the one from the market. Guys, you can make it from scraps that you've got lying about in your workshop. That cheap to make. Don't spend money unless you've got it and you know you've got plenty of it. Then go ahead and buy the original ones. Now I have left a link to the original push blocks that inspired me to do this down below in the description of this video. If you can afford it, go for it and get them, as I think this particular type of push block is definitely worth getting. And there you go, guys, they work absolutely spot on, exactly what I wanted. And the rubber itself, the backing is ever so sturdy. It latches onto the piece of wood, and to be fair, you wouldn't actually even need those stoppers at the back. However, on some occasions it will be ever so useful to have those back retractable stops like that. Absolutely fantastic addition. You know, you can go even one step further and add some springs to it, so adds that tension. However, you know, if you made the hole 1 millimeter larger, the dowels will just go up and down, no issues at all, and there is no need for any springs, anything like that. It works, it just works. Such a simple thing, but I wish I made it sooner. It's one of those projects that I really do wish I made it sooner. Now these are definitely going into the bin because they're absolutely useless, but these guys, if you still are running on these really cheap nasty ones, do yourself a favor and make a pair of these with those stops. Absolutely fantastic addition if you've got a jointer or any other tools that, you know, require you to push the material through. But hey, if you enjoyed today's video, if that gave you a bit of inspiration, drop me that like down below and consider subscribing to my channel, as I hope to bring more interesting content for you. But for today, guys, that's all. Thank you so much for watching. Take care.